It makes me so angry that little viruses can just traipse in here and treat your body like a playground. I just feel so helpless, you know?
It's really not that bad.
Have we displeased you, almighty God in heaven? Do our lives mean nothing to you?
Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hey, this is Justin Storms. I'm the singer and rhythm guitarist, Wailin Storms.
And I'm Steve Stanczyk. I'm bass player.
And I'm Mark Oates. I play the drums.
I should mention that Wailin Storms has been on the podcast once before, a couple of years ago. An interesting time for all of us. Welcome back, guys. Just to catch everyone up, how would you describe the music of Wailin Storms?
I can answer this one. It was really interesting during this last, kind of press push with the new album, someone, I forget who it came from, but someone made the comparison of us sounding like if Bauhaus and Black Sabbath had a baby. And I thought that's a great description in that it's so accessible that when people ask you, hey, what does your band sound like? You can give them that, and really anyone who knows anything about music would have some sort of reference point. And if they don't, if they don't know those two bands, they're not really worth talking music with to begin with.
They said Killing Joke too, but those are the two, main ones. But you're totally right. I think that kind of nails it.
So between Bauhaus, Black Sabbath, and Killing Joke, we've got goth rock, post-punk, and doomy, old school heavy metal or doom metal. So is that fair? Your music is an amalgamation of all those styles?
Yeah.
I think so.
Cool. And I think one term that we coined the last time we spoke was post-apocalyptic Southern Gothic punk.
Yeah. That worked.
Nailed it.
That sums it up probably a little bit better, in my opinion. I like a little bit more descriptive, because that sounds pretty unique to me. So
the last time we spoke was May of 2020.
Damn.
And happenings were afoot. things were going wrong in the world. Do you guys remember when that period of time and what had just happened when we spoke? Specific to the band, not in terms of world affairs. I think you guys just came off tour, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was right, I believe, right when Rattle was coming out, right? And
it was like February 2020.
Yeah, it was March. It was the first week in March. Yeah. And so in May, we naively thought, we were trying to do a record release show, and we naively thought that, we could just move it out a few weeks, once everything shut down for the pandemic. Oh, well, certainly in 3 or 4 weeks, everything will be back to normal and we can just move it out. And then, of course, it just kept getting pushed and eventually canceled. But it's I don't know. I mean, funny in one way, but just sickening in another to just think about how naive we were about the whole situation and how much we didn't know and really how long it's lasted.
Do you guys want to add anything?
Yeah, I was going to say, just to add to it, it was just kind of almost like a lot of heartache. It just sucked because we worked so hard to do that record, and we had so many plans for that record with touring and everything. And all of a sudden it's like, nope, it's not going to happen. So we kind of had to bite the bullet and pull the plug on it.
Yeah, we got asked to tour in Europe for the first time and all these different various European tours, and just things were picking up momentum wise, and things got derailed. And then we had to just say well, let's just record the next record and work on the next record and just focus on that. So, that's kind of the silver lining, I guess, is being able to focus on the newer material at that time. Once things just kept on getting worse and worse, we just focused our energy towards that.
Yeah, that was the nice thing about it. If there's any nice thing about it, was that we were able to really concentrate on a new record, well, this one here, and really put all our focus to it and just hunker down and record.
And if I'm not mistaken, you guys were actually playing shows when the lockdown started. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, literally the weekend before, and just coincidentally, I did get sick that weekend from, just tour sick or whatever, brought some back with me. And, of course that led to some, at the time we didn't think it was COVID, because it was too soon. But then in hindsight, when you're okay, was it really, just starting in February, March, or was it around earlier, which probably it was. But I did end up getting tested midway through 2020 for antibodies, and it came up negative. So I think I just had strep throat or something, but still not fun.
And, as you mentioned, all your tour plans and promotional plans for the album Rattle had to be put aside because of the lockdowns and social distancing restrictions and things like that. Were you guys ever able to promote that album?
Yeah, we were on top, records of the year lists and promoting it in that sense, like digitally. But in a way, we were able to kind of promote that to the end of the year as we normally would digitally. But I don't know, we weren't able to really play on it, which is kind of the exciting part about recording and releasing music, is being able to like get that energy from the crowd to kind of feel, that energy from them and see what they like and get feedback about, oh, I love this song and this song's great live. It's interesting to share that with other people and not just, digitally and in this other kind of like internet world.
Yeah, I mean, we're a live band, so like, I mean, that's, not to speak for all of us, but that's why we do this. So like, not being able to, celebrate these new songs with the people we care about, it sucked. It just wasn't the same. But you figure it out. We spent more time, doing digital promotion and just being available that time around.
Yeah, we were also though kind of fortunate enough to be able to sell a lot of vinyl that we had just through like pre-orders and everything like that from the previous album. People that knew us and the spread, I guess, from like all the reviews we got on the record too. It actually helped.
Yeah, that's a good point. Usually we would have to, depend on the touring to sell the records, and we were able to sell out of all the records in Europe and in the US, which is pretty great considering we didn't tour at all. That's kind of an anomaly to be able to do that.
I think working in the music industry too, it just seeing the amount of vinyl that actually was sold like during the pandemic is ridiculous. Like every artist that we like where I work with, their vinyl sales were exponentially higher than normal. And I think we kind of rode that train a little bit too.
Well, everyone who got the records pressed on vinyl before the pandemic had the market cornered, right? Because nobody was able to press any vinyl afterwards.
We got lucky.
We definitely got lucky with timing there. And now we're kind of...
I was going to say not lucky on this album.
Yeah, we're kind of on the other... I mean, we're in a decent position, but it's kind of like that. At least we're aware that was going to happen, and we didn't have like the unfortunate situation of like, oh, we wanted to, or we want to release the record, but now that COVID hit, everybody's, all the pressing plants are all, overwhelmed. And now we're at least expecting this delay, but it still sucks to not be able to go on tour tomorrow with our record in hand as we normally would. So,
yeah, thanks Taylor Swift and Billie Eilish.
It's funny, a few years before that, I spoke to a bunch of bands who said that Beyonce was the reason their records didn't come out. Like Beyonce decided to do a limited edition vinyl or something like that, and that killed all the vinyl pressing plants.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now it's Adele. Yeah, now it's Adele and Billie Eilish and Taylor Swift.
But not just playing live, but you guys write together as well, right? Like, isn't your process, doesn't it mostly take place in the rehearsal room?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, a lot of our stuff definitely develops there. I guess I tend to write lyrics and like kind of the bones of the guitar stuff, and then we kind of workshop stuff. So I'll give the guys some bones of the song, and then we'll kind of workshop like, okay, this sounds good, or let's, I don't know, extend this part, or, pause here or something like that. But yeah, we definitely, it's nice to be able to get into the practice space and figure stuff out.
And that was really one of the benefits of, again, a bad situation with the pandemic, of just being able to solely focus on writing for the record and not having to worry about whatever touring that we were doing or shows coming up or other activities. I mean, it was literally the longest we've ever had to just solely focus on writing and like really just building and refining and iterating off those songs. So I think, for those people that listen to the new record, you'll really hear that come through.
Yeah, totally, Steve. Because normally we would like be writing a record and then also have to like relearn old songs to play shows and tour and stuff like that. So we're like constantly juggling when we're working on new stuff with like rehashing old stuff. So it's always kind of like a juggling act typically, but this time we were able to just focus on new stuff, which is kind of cool.
No, I agree. Yeah, 100%.
So, are you guys all based in North Carolina?
Unfortunately, yeah.
We're all based in Durham.
Yeah, Durham.
In Durham.
Yeah, in Durham, North Carolina.
So everyone's lockdown experiences were different. I'm talking about like in terms of people listening to this podcast. But the rules were, quite strict in some places and quite loose in others. For you guys, did social distancing restrictions affect when you could start working on new material or how you could practice or anything like that?
I think it did. Mm-hmm. Just that in the early parts of it, we all had like I feel like I'm not trying to speak for everyone, but like I think we all kind of had our own like little cliques that we kind of felt like safe with, like with people that we hung out with, and we were all in there. The only downside was for me, my job didn't change. Like it was same as it was before pandemic. We had like furloughed a lot of people at work just to be able to maintain like the social distancing and stuff at work. But other than that, with the band, I kind of feel, we waited a little bit before, and then we just kind of made sure that, this is our bubble that we were staying in, and we trusted one another. And with Todd's basement, it's where we rehearse. It's got plenty of room between all of us. So, we all wore masks while we were playing and practicing, and tried to take quite a few breaks when we could, just to kind of step out in fresh air, just so it's not consistent like that where it's being hunkered down.
Yeah, truth be told, I felt like at first we weren't properly masked and all. We had masks, but we didn't know which masks were. I guess we knew which ones were the best, but there weren't any available. So we were kind of just trying to like make do with what we had, and we weren't sure how communicable the disease was like right away. And so I think we waited like a month or two because we have immunocompromised partners, and some of us are. So we tried to be really careful at first. And like Mark said, we definitely tried to be really safe about who we hung out with. And when we practiced, we were all messed up and stuff like that. Yeah, so it was a bit precarious at first. Definitely.
So when did you guys actually feel comfortable getting together again? Was it pretty soon after we talked in 2021? Or sorry, 2020?
It feels like ages ago. I really can't remember.
I feel like we waited like 2 months kind of like to really officially make it happen, because just things kept on snowballing, like, oh yeah, okay, it's getting worse and the numbers are getting more intense. So we were kind of monitoring the numbers and like how bad cases were in our area and stuff like that. And it took a while to calm down, but you guys might remember it differently.
That sounds about right. It was, I want to say that you're correct, because we also left it up to Todd to, tell us when he's comfortable. It's one thing for us to go over to his house. It's another thing to invite a bunch of people over to your own. So
yeah, we
really let him like tell us what his comfort level was.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the same thing. It's, with Todd, it was more, his comfort level when he was ready to do it. And when we did, it was very strict. It was, we made sure we were all masked. And if he didn't feel comfortable one day, we just kind of, we would cancel it and push it back, according to numbers and what CDC was saying and everything.
I step inside into your mind.
when you guys were meeting, was it specifically with the purpose of writing a new album? Or were you guys still thinking that maybe some tours would be coming up when things opened up?
I think we just started to work on new songs. I don't remember anticipating touring, but
yeah, it was new songs. I think at that point we had realized that things are going to be like this for a little while until there was a vaccine. So I do remember having a conversation about, well, let's just then focus on writing new music and not worry about playing any old stuff and see what we can come up with. And that was good. I mean, just to have a distraction and get out of the house, was another element that you kind of forget now that things are partially back to normal. But just having that outlet to be creative and do something was important as well.
Yeah, I agree. It was huge where it was at one point where it was like I felt like even though I was seeing everybody at work and I was still going into work every single day, I wasn't seeing any of my friends, and it was still kind of like a feeling of like being secluded, even though I had my partner, my wife. But it was at that same point, it's like, well, shit, am I gonna see my friends again? Am I gonna be able to play music again at one point? So, but yeah, it was good to finally be able to hang out with people again.
Yeah, I just turned to the bottle, became an alcoholic. No joke. I was drinking.
What do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about.
I seriously drank so much during the pandemic. It wasn't healthy, man. It was not healthy. Yeah, no joke. That's some real stuff right there.
For listeners at home, Mark just took a long drag on his IPA.
Yep.
What's it called though, Mark? What's that IPA called?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. It is called the Silver Snake Unfolds Hazy IPA, collaboration with Wailin Storms by Dirty Bull.
Nice. And they're a Durham brewery?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
5 doors from my house.
It's 3 doors down. It's 5 doors down. It's a new cover record.
It's a cover band.
So now would be a good time to mention that you recently released a new album called The Silver Snake Unfolds through Gilead Media. Which album is this for you guys? Is this 5?
4.
It's
the fourth full
length. Yeah.
Okay.
There's 2 EPs before that.
And Antenna Kruczkov, I'm saying that wrong. There's a Polish label too that's releasing it in Europe, just as a side note.
I'll let you mention the name of the Polish label. I mispronounced enough things on this podcast.
It's Antenna Kruczkov.
Yeah, Kruczku. Antenna Kruczku.
Steve could do that.
Yeah.
I have enough consonants in my last name that
Steve wins at Scrabble every time.
Yeah, for sure.
We were speaking about the writing process for the album and how this came out of an extremely turbulent time, not just for the band, but for the world in general. Do you think what you guys had just experienced, were currently experiencing when you were writing the album, affected the sound at all?
For me, yes, definitely. I assume everybody else, but I don't want to speak for y'all, but definitely for writing and the guitar playing and melodies, definitely.
For me, it was, I was like stuck in a rut for like a long time, just having like writer's block, because I kept feeling like I was writing the same thing for drums wise, writing the same thing over and over. And I had to really focus, and I took a couple lessons and just to kind of get me out of a writer's block, and it helped. And as far as the record goes, I feel really comfortable with playing on it.
It's hard to say, like it definitely, there's definitely effects there, but I guess it would be, not being a primary songwriter or lyricist, it's harder for me to put a finger on what exactly it meant.
I mean, Justin, do you want to say how this album was different, or how you approach this album differently as you're coming up with new material?
Yeah, there's, a song that is like a more melancholic. I guess we have songs that are melancholic and more subdued, but there's a really, really slow ballad song on this record that is something that I mean, we kind of had something similar on the last record, but this is like, I felt like almost regressing a little bit to an earlier stage of Wailin Storms, where it was more stripped down and soul based, and it had this kind of R&B feel. But the theme of that song is like really, really dark. I was about to cuss a lot. Sorry. We can cuss, right? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I really,
Oh, yeah.
I just realized I started to do that. But it just deals with very, very dark. The theme of that song is like the darkest places that I went in during COVID, and that's kind of exploring these like really sad scenarios in my mind and kind of having to play that out and sing about it to hopefully, I don't know, avoid it. Yeah, like have like a invisible gargoyle, or singing about a gargoyle, and maybe it'll like ward off those evil thoughts or spirits. But I feel like this record is particularly dark and particularly dystopian, but also we went places with this record that felt pretty unique to us. Like Mark said, he was feeling like he was in a rut, and I felt like we were getting comfortable in the way that we were making music and recording. And I feel like, I don't know, this record definitely has, I mean, they all have special moments in it, but this one definitely has just a lot of, I don't know, substance and character that all the records have, but this one just, I don't know, something about it. It's ineffable. It's something that I can't really describe, but it just has like that magic essence, that sounds cheesy, but it's how I feel,
No, I think you nailed it with like having more character. I mean, I feel like there's a lot more involvement with the whole band, like with everybody. And I think that there's a lot of space in it. Then there's there's heavier moments on the record than I feel that we've had on the last.
I mean, is that, it's, can't deny that the situation that we were all in had some part to play in that. But I would also say just the evolution of the band, of us just working together as musicians and kind of understanding where our parts, I almost said farts, parts fit together.
You did say farts.
I heard that. So I was like, nice.
But where our parts fit together and how they mesh, and where, kind of getting a feel for how that synergy happens when you play with people that you work well with.
Yeah, I would agree there. Our synergy really just, we're kind of sequestered together for 8-10 months, and we love and hate each other, and it just kind of, the magic appears eventually when we're practicing that much and working on new stuff. It's tough, but I feel like, here's a great record that came out of that journey. It was arduous, but yeah, it was beautiful. And also the recording process. That's something we haven't talked about, but recording with Dave, he let the music breathe. He kept the warts and flaws of what we kind of were intending to keep intact. And a lot of times that'll get produced and taken out and edited out. And that's happened in past records. And we kind of have had to be a little bit more blunt with the engineer and say hey, we want to keep that, we want that feedback. We want this and all these weird missed notes or something. And with this record, I feel like you hear all those beautiful little colors, in the songs and characteristics that Mark mentioned earlier.
Yeah, 100%.
But David's awesome guy that recorded, Dave Downham.
And we started this conversation with, Bauhaus and Black Sabbath and Killing Joke. Would you say that this album is doomier or maybe just slower and darker than what you've done previously?
I mean, I definitely would. If you kind of look, especially at the early albums, there's definitely more of a punk flair, I would say, to some of those, in terms of tempo and just general aggression. This one dips into a very deep chasm of darkness. I mean, it's just, it really, it has some upbeat moments for sure, but it goes dark. I think that's the interesting part of this album versus Sick City or One Foot in the Flesh Grave in particular.
Yeah, I agree on that. I really think like and Justin will probably, I imagine he'll say the same thing. It's like, especially with the lyrics, just I think the timing of everything and the time that we're in, it just kind of let it go into a darker place. And I think this record is a lot darker than the last three.
Yeah, I would agree. And there, like Steve said, there's like a silkiness to the sound where it's not like it's overproduced and we're singing Marvin Gaye, but there is this like pocket. There's like I don't know. It's a rhythm thing, so it's like Mark is responsible for that, but there's just like this, I don't know, soulfulness to it that's dark, but it has like, I don't know, character that doesn't necessarily exist on all of our records, maybe our first EP or something that was like, in 2010. But yeah, there's interesting characteristics in this that don't exist on other records, honestly, and I think it has to do with us just the synergy of like of how we now respond to each other, and like as far as sonically, and we're just like so in tuned or so intuitive with each other now that we're just like in a nice, beautiful pocket that's, I don't know. Yeah, I can keep rambling, but I feel like I'm getting on a tangent.
Justin, you mentioned having some new elements on this album that weren't on previous albums. Do you want to see what those elements are?
Well, for instance, I feel like Carolina Moon, how we introduced that song was kind of serendipitous. Steve had a bass pedal that, was really just this weird, like sonic, like almost outer space terrestrial.
Kind of like a whirlwind almost.
Yeah, like it had this wind effect, but it also sounds like the beginning of Sam Haines and Ithium's record, Initium, or however you say that, where it's like everything's being summoned, like all these other worlds are being summoned, and you're like surrounded by all these gods or deities from other realms. It has this otherworldly type Pandora's box feel, or whatever Pinhead uses in Hellraiser.
I better say it before somebody comments about it on YouTube. I believe you're referring to the Lament configuration.
Okay, yeah, it's been a while since I've watched Hellraiser. I played across the street from Hellraiser, where they filmed Hellraiser 3 in Greensboro, called the Hellraiser House. That's a little side note, but yeah.
It was loud as fuck.
Yeah. But it basically sounds like if you took a lot of LSD, which I don't condone, but when I was younger, I experimented with that, and it's kind of like you hear these weird worlds in your head, and I feel like Steve's pedal did that on Carolina Moon, for instance, and we give that song a lot of space in that introduction to kind of paint this like outside storm effect or something, like just to create that mood, and that's something that we haven't really done, like create this ambient atmosphere that is present on that song. And sorry, Steve, I was speaking for you. You could be more specific about that.
I think you nailed it.
Like maybe the name of that pedal, I don't know. Maybe you don't want to give away your mystery, but
can't give away secrets.
I don't even know, to tell you the truth. I would have to go look.
It's a cool pedal though. But yeah, and then on our really slow song called Drag, I felt like we did something so stripped down, like something you'd hear on a dark jazz record from Berlin, like Born unto Clubhouse of Gore record, like where there's just so much space and so much atmosphere, and everything is breathing in its little pocket, that it just feels like a different band. It's us, but it's kind of like Twin Peaks all of a sudden, or Nick Cave, or which we've been compared to, but it has this like, you're in this, I don't know, lounge in Berlin in 1920s, and everything's really dark and people are dancing slowly and you're drunk on absinthe or something, just to give you a little picture of maybe like where that song belongs in time.
You mentioned Dave Downham. Do you want to talk about why you decided to work with Dave for this album?
I will say he mixed our last record, and we were really stoked about how he treated it and how he just got what we were looking for. After we kind of gave him some pointers, he just took it and like immediately achieved what we wanted to sonically with Rattle. And beyond that, I'll let you guys, Mark or Steve, Mark has a history with him, recording and stuff. He was based in Philly, but you guys can expound upon that.
Yeah, I've known him for quite a while, and like through the bands that he's been in and with the bands that I was in Philadelphia, one of mine in particular, Sinatra, had recorded with him like 2 albums with him, and it was just like both recording with Dave and Steve Paponi, who run Gradwell House. They just make it so easy for you, and it's like so comfortable. And I only mentioned those guys because of that experience I've had with recordings, because I have this whole fear of like recording and getting all in my head and everything like that. And they just made the whole process for me easier. And it just made sense to like reach out to them, see if they would be interested in recording the new record. And Dave was pretty excited to do it. So
I'd like to backtrack a little bit. When were you actually ready to record? Like, when did you have an album finished?
Man, I probably right up until we decided to go record.
Yeah.
It always felt like we were like, all right, well, what if we try this? What if we tweak this? What if we try doing this one extra measure? Or what if we try, I don't know, something different? And it felt like we had enough time to do it. But then all of a sudden it was like, what if we change this? All the way up until the end, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been around any artist, like nothing is ever done. There's always like some little refinement or some touch that you're going to add, and I think we could have kept going on it, probably for another year and made, minor adjustments. But ultimately, it's important to keep yourself on a timeline and on a task. It's not a purposeful decision, but we seem to be on a cadence of an album every other year. So, we felt like with the focus that the pandemic gave us, that we were able to really do these songs justice, and that we could feel good about going in there and feel confident about what we're laying down.
Yeah, and I'm big on like not overworking paintings, drawings, lyrics, songs, and not that we do, but I feel like if you just keep on waiting and overworking stuff, it can get, we've gotten into situations where a song, we just kind of scrapped it because we just like would change it so much that it just evolved or devolved after a while. And we just were like, we're not happy with it anymore, kind of thing. So I was kind of glad that we set a date and like, okay, this is the goal. Let's bust out. And like maybe Carolina Moon was like the last song we tinkered with, and so maybe there could be like little subtle things that we could have done differently, maybe in parts, but I feel like ultimately we knocked it out of the park. Mark and Steve and Todd and everybody just nailed it. We could have probably used more time. We always think, oh, that's plenty of time, and then we get there and record it, and then it's like, dang, probably could have used maybe like another half day, but then we're going insane by that time anyways, and it's just hard to hear the same stuff every day and work on it, in the studio, that is.
And one thing that we do that is a little bit differently is we live record. A lot of bands will go track by track, and if they're really like precision bands will, like grid out their drums, and so that it literally is everything's perfect. And we've always, again, felt that we were a live band and we play off of one another, and we like the ebb and flow of what happens, even if the tempo changes a little bit, but that soul and that breathing room that kind of cadence gives you. So when we record, we basically all kind of get in the same room and we just basically all record at the same time. It's not done track by track. There's overdubs, of course, and we come back and do the vocals, but generally speaking, we try to lay down as much as we can that first go round.
And so would you say that this is an album you couldn't have put together during lockdowns?
We probably could have. It just would have taken a lot longer, I think. Yeah. I don't think we would have been able to record it when we did. Personally, I think it would have taken another like half year probably to, wait till winter came around to have time to focus on it and not tour. That's generally how it works. Like we'll basically work on new stuff during downtimes, which is typically during the winter and like late autumn.
Given a choice between tracking separately or recording live, would you guys have just put it off until you could record live?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what we've grown used to. So like trying to do it, like if we were going to like, I don't know, do it remotely or, something like that, where you're going track by track. I don't know. I think it would have sucked a lot of the soul out of it. I think what you hear on the album, to Justin's point earlier, of just those flaws and those little live noises you hear with a live band, that's part of the magic that's there. It was interesting because we had, forget what his name was, and maybe Mark or Justin remembers, but we had a person like just kind of swing by the studio where we were recording. Their studio musician that works with a lot of big name hip hop artists. And he was really interested and pleasantly surprised that we were recording that way, because it doesn't happen in his industry.
I mean, it's happening less and less in our industry as well. I spoke to a number of bands who, even the drums may be the only thing they went into a studio to record. But a lot of times the drums are sequenced or programmed beforehand so that, the band has an idea of what the album's going to sound like. But everything else was recorded separately or recorded remotely.
Yeah, that's tough. Like for me, it sucks out like any kind of, like what everybody else said, sucks out any kind of soul of the record. It feels too mechanical, and I think that's like what we all kind of pride ourselves in this band, is that we're more of a live band than a recorded band, and we want to capture like what we do live, and I think it would just lose its guts if we kind of did the whole thing like track by track.
And when did you end up heading to Rattle House to record with Dave?
Was that? I'm not sure, guys. What was that like? Was it August?
Yeah, I think
year?
it was the first week of August in 2021. Yeah. So yeah, right.
Yeah.
That sounds right. Everybody, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, August 2021.
And Dave handled everything, right? Like not just the engineering, but the mixing and mastering as well?
Yep.
Yeah, he did. That was another just kind of added benefit. He knew what he was, shooting for and knew what he wanted to hear out of it. So while that's a little bit unusual to have the same person mix and master, he's talented enough to be able to pull it off.
And as you mentioned, Dave has mastered your previous albums. What would you say he brings to your sound?
Like, I think Justin mentioned this before. I mean, he gets what loud music should sound like. He understands like the tones that you're going for, and just that aspect of it, of having guitars in your face. But I think the nuance that he got that, we've sometimes struggled with in the past, is that there's also a big openness to our sound. There's a lot of reverb, there's a lot of ambient noises. There's a certain like twang, if you will, to it that fits into that a lot of engineers struggle with. So he was able to kind of like wrangle both of those two sounds and make it work.
Yeah, I would agree. He was able to kind of capture the like intimate moments and also the heavy moments like appropriately, or just it's kind of a hard thing if we come in there and we're playing really heavy music, but then there's a really quiet song and all of a sudden he was just very thoughtful about mics he's using, and like, okay, we're going to use the room mic in this part, or he has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. He has a lot of, time and history and knowledge, and it really served us well, I think,
Yeah, he really knows the room, the word. Like, I mean, he was one of the ones that helped design that room. So he knows everything, every kind of nuance and everything that like the recording studio there that brings the band alive kind of feel to it.
Which actually was one of the nuance of the room was kind of one funny thing that did happen. So on on the first song that's on the Silver Snake Unfolds. So I have an Ampeg Classic tube amp head, and it's been serviced. It works great. Been using it for years now in this band. So I have it in an isolation room, and we're starting to like basically take some tracks down, and we're working on that first song. That's the first song off the album too. And I kept like hearing like radio interference. Like, if you've ever had that like on an old amp or something like that, where you start to hear a radio station kind of come through the amp. That has never happened on that amp before. Like, honestly, I don't think that's happened since I've been in high school, but never on that amp, especially like it's a good quality amp. I mean, like, never there. So I'm like, what the heck is happening? And I was talking to Matt, who was another engineer that was helping Dave set up. And I'm like, hey, can you hear this? Is this going to be a problem? And he's like, nah, don't worry about it. I hear it, but like everything else is going to be so loud, like especially once you have overdrive on, it's not going to hear it. Well, the thing is on that song, I have two different types of overdrive on. So once the second one kicks in, it really picked up those frequencies. And so at the end of the song, we would hear these voices talking, and it turns out we were at Rattle houses in New Jersey. The radio station was coming in from, we think, West Virginia, and it was this crazy, like, cult-like radio station, like some Christian radio station, like chanting and just hymnals and whatever. And so every time we ran through the song a number of times, and we would stop and it would just come through, and we were just like, oh my God, this is weird and funny and creepy at the same time. And on the take that we actually kept, if you listen really closely at the end of the song, you'll hear the station come through, and you'll hear like a woman's voice, like finishing, I think it's the Our Father prayer, and just at the end. And we did not manipulate that at all. We didn't move it. It literally happened like that in the studio. And the only thing we did was took out our voices of being like, holy shit, what the hell was that? And then we got to keep it. We got to keep that on the album.
Justin, you mentioned wanting to keep the feedback and some of the bum notes from the live performance. Why was this important to you? What do you think this adds to the experience of listening to the album?
I guess I like records that aren't perfect, and just not that we're the Sonics or, Sonic Youth or anything like that, but I just feel like having that human element to it, and just the imperfections are interesting to me. Like if I hear a record that's just like, auto-tuned and perfect and, yeah, it just doesn't really do it for me. So I guess it's maybe like a selfish personal aesthetic that I like to, like, what I would listen to is kind of what I want to create, maybe is the best way to put it, Yeah, I don't know. Something about keeping those warts are just interesting to me, and it just serves the song well to keep some like human element, and yeah, I feel like it's part of it, it's just part of the room. It's part of the type of microphone you're using. It's part of the guitar and the amp and our fingers and, all the stuff. Right. So why not? I don't know.
I mean, it humanizes the album, right? Like you guys are very much a live band in all regards. And there's a strange disconnect with a lot of heavy music where, especially the kind of music that this podcast largely covers, where you listen to, a lot of death metal that's very mechanical, and maybe this was more true 20 years ago than it is now. But when you'd go see the band live with like the high gain or just the speed that these bands are playing, it would sound very different live than it did on the record. Like they almost went out of their way to leach all the humanity out of their performances on some of those old death metal records.
Yeah, that's too bad. It's sad.
Yeah, I mean, there is, there's an authentic factor to it that you want people to know that, hey, this is live, this isn't synthetic music. So I think there's that aspect of it too, and just curiously, I wonder if just what you grew up with, that the older records that you may have played, or maybe, Justin, I know you listen to a lot of old stuff, like those imperfections were just part of the process. It wasn't a conscious decision. It was. So, subconsciously, are you yearning for that level of production quality because that's what you love, kind of thing?
Maybe so. Yeah. Cause I mean, I grew up on, I don't know, old blues, folk, and it's just, here's a person in a field recording somebody who just finished working in the fields, and you're hearing all the flaws, but that's interesting to me. And also, like, I don't know, my favorite Misfits records are like riddled with flaws and like feedback and are dirgy and, not clean at all. So, I mean, I like Walk Among Us, but to me, it's a little too clean. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. Something about having those flaws is just, it's always been great to include that, in my opinion. Yeah.
I mean, there's also an honesty to it, right?
Yeah, there's a purity to it, right? You're like witnessing what actually took place in a room, as opposed to like, oh, somebody just did a bunch of wizardry to like suck the soul out of something, basically, and make it sound radio friendly. So maybe there's like an inherent like rebellion to not be accessible to the masses for me, because how I grew up and what I prefer listening to, maybe. I don't know. I think there's a subconscious rebellion going on maybe there.
It just adds a human element to it. It's like, it sucks when you hear anything that's like super polished. I mean, some of it's good, but like but when you hear a record, it's like, man, I wonder what those raw tracks sounded like before it's all polished and, mixed to perfection and everything. I wonder what those tracks really sounded like. Like for me, like a perfect example is like, I'm a huge Nirvana fan, and hearing like the Steve Albini outtakes and hearing his, just how like the recording, how raw it is like, it made me feel like, holy shit, like these guys are human and they're just playing with straight emotion and straight feeling. And then somebody else gets a hold of it and just polishes it, and it just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah. I think Helmet on Meantime rode that line, even though I know they re-recorded the drums. But that record has this like beautiful
just the snare hit.
True. But that record has this beautiful, like, you know, nastiness to it, but still is really well recorded. So I don't know, you know, like that rides a fine line for me, like where it's almost too produced, but not quite too produced. It sounds really full and big and dirgy, and the right parts are distorted perfectly. And, you know, that's a really great record.
Sometimes it's more interesting to hear a band's demos.
Yeah.
Just because the demos tell you who the band really is. And the finished album sometimes tells you more about the engineer in the studio.
Yeah,
100%.
That's true. I didn't think about that because we don't really. I mean, Dave is probably the first engineer that really, like, you know, okay, let's experiment with this intro and do this here and that. You know, not that he like reconfigured songs, but yeah, you're right. I forgot about that element of a lot of records. Engineer.
But we've also made a lot of demos that we will never share.
Oh yeah, well, hopefully we do. Yeah, we forgot to mention that, Adrian. Like when we're working on songs, we're basically recording every single session. You know, like we do workshop it and record it to death. You know, already.
Yeah, Todd's an engineer, so he's a sound engineer, so he records all our practices, and we'll go back and listen to some of that shit and be like, ooh.
Yeah, but it's good. It's good. It gives us a basis of like, okay, the drums sound too fast, or we're too fast. Not just the drums, but like, oh, we're playing this too fast, or playing this too slow, or this sounds funky. Like, why is that? You know, so it's good. It's good to be able to record and take notes. You know, especially for recording purposes later on.
Just not share.
So, Mark, I'm going to direct this question to you. Tell me about the Silver Snake Unfolds IPA.
Yeah. So there's a brewery that's like down like a block and a half from my house, and just for the heck of it, I was down there and I asked if I was talking to the sales guy there. I asked if they've ever done like a collaboration with a band and if they'd be interested. And he's like, oh, well, we've never done that before. And he's like, when are you looking to release this? Like in a couple of weeks or something? I was like, oh no, we got a few months for this. And he's like, okay, good. He's like, well, go ahead and send me an email, send me the links of like the band and everything, and you know what you're thinking. And so I sent it over to him, and like the next day he was just like, holy shit. He's like, I can't believe I haven't heard you guys. It's like, this is right up my alley with like the Misfits and Bauhaus and all those bands like that. And he's like, we're in, let's do this. And yeah, so it's like kind of was like a conversation we just kept talking about and everything. We forwarded him the artwork for the album, so they were able to put the artwork on the can with some extra help from their art director there at the brewery. So the art that was for the album was done by Ron Liberty, and so it has like credits to him on the can, and has the album artwork, and then has like it's a hazy IPA, and also has a little side note on it. It says a collaboration with Wailin Storms on it for a record release.
And how widely available is this?
They distribute all through like North Carolina, but we're gonna have a couple cases with us on tour. And some friends of ours have asked in like different states for some of the beer, so we might be doing some distributing while on tour.
That's bootlegging. That's not distributing.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
I mean, we're not selling it.
That's true. That's the one catch.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to hearing your Jailhouse album.
That'd be awesome.
So, The Silver Snake Unfolds is out now through Gilead Media. Guys, tell everyone how they can order the album and what the best way to get it is?
Yeah, so if you're in the US, you can order the album through our merch store, which is wailinstorms.com/store. You can also order it from Gilead Media, who is our US label. And then in the EU, antennacriscu.pl, you can order it there too. Vinyl is obviously delayed, so we're taking pre-orders for vinyl on our website, and I believe Antenna is also doing the same thing. But CDs, tapes, digital is all available as we speak.
Now, as far as the vinyl goes, is Gilead and Antenna doing a limited edition, a color edition, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, they both are. We, just with the craziness around the pressing plans, we basically left it up to both labels to like do what they felt was right for this album from a color standpoint. But if Eric over at Antenna, he's got a really good eye for that sort of thing. So I'm expecting probably something splatter or marble to come our way from him. And then Adam, yeah, he knows our sound too. So I'm sure there'll be some interesting variations for the US market as well. But it'll be a surprise to us as much as anyone else.
And if people want to follow Wailin Storms online, what's the best way to do that?
Probably Instagram or Facebook. Yeah, just Wailin Storms at Instagram, and then same thing for Facebook. It's probably the best.
Is there anything else you guys want to say?
Thanks for doing this, Adrian.
Yeah, thanks so much, Adrian.
Yeah.
Really appreciate this.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun the last time we did this. I was, happy when Shannon sent me the new album, and so it was great to catch up. I thought I would have a follow-up to the Sexy Saxman story.
Oh, man.
But it turns out I got all the details wrong. So the guy that you met was Sergio Flores, right?
No.
The Lost Boys sax guy.
You did meet the actual Lost Boys sax guy.
Oh, yeah.
Todd, what's his name? Todd something?
No. Tim, was it Tim?
Kitselis?
Capello.
Capello?
Tim
Okay.
Capello.
Okay, so I did get this right. Well, I got the other part of the story wrong, though, unfortunately. I thought I spoke to somebody who actually worked with Tim Consuelo. They did a vampire-themed death metal album, and they did a song about the Lost Boys.
Yeah.
And so, because it was a song about the Lost Boys, they had to get a sax solo on it. And so I thought that they actually got Tim Consuelo, but it turns out it was just one of their fans who donated a sax solo in the spirit of that famous Lost Boys moment.
Was it Sergio Flores?
No.
Oh,
It was
okay.
just one of their fans on Instagram.
Okay.
But yeah, I was hoping that the Sexy Saxman would keep coming back up on this podcast. But that's awesome that you met the real guy.
Yeah, and I almost had another chance to meet him too. He was playing here in Raleigh last Wednesday, and I was gonna go see him, and unfortunately, I had shit come up with work and everything, and I couldn't make it down there in time. But I was gonna text him and be like, "Hey, man, put me on the guest list. I'm the one that you charged $5,000 for 2 T-shirts."
Guilt trip him.
Yeah.
It seems like he's doing pretty well.
Yeah.
He pops up in things every so often. Like I just saw him on this comedy show.
Yeah, I was gonna maybe for the next Wailin Storms record, I'm gonna have him do a guest spot and charge him $5,000.
Well, he needs that money, right? I mean, spray tan and suspenders.
Oh, just
on
in
cheap.
body lotion, body oil and spray tan alone.
Luckily, his shirt budget is pretty low.
Yeah.
And he still uses the same chain necklace with the master lock on it too.
So awesome.
Classic.
He's so nice. He's such a nice guy.
He's incredibly nice.
Sweetheart. Jersey, right? Is he a Jersey guy? Or is he like?
I mean,
Can you tell?
he was Tina Turner.
He's international.
Saxophone.
world
Yeah,
claims him.
that guy's worldwide.
He sounded Jersey from his accent, I thought, but I could be wrong.
Could be.
Excellent. Well, thanks, guys.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adrian.
Looking forward to the next one.
I really appreciate it.
Talk to y'all later.
the hour of our death.